Welcome to the FCTV podcast. I'm here with Chris Crowe, who is the owner and CEO of T3, a company that helps service providers design, build, and deploy broadband. Chris has spent more than 30 years in telecom, including leadership roles at Ericsson, working across both wireless and wireline technologies. These days, he's focused on some of the industry's biggest conversations, from AI to precision agriculture and rural broadband. Chris, welcome to FCTV.
Nice to be here.
Great. So fun to have you here. So just give us a little background on what T3 does. Who are you guys?
Sure. So we are an end-to-end integrator. So we have all of the hardware from optical transport, routing, PON, through all of the wireless options, core, et cetera. Then we have engineering and services that wrap around it to enable our customers to go deploy.
Okay, cool. Now you work primarily like in rural areas. Is that like kind of your wheelhouse where you guys
We were born out of rural.
Okay.
So that is a big focus of ours. But we do service all the way up to the large tier 2s, sometimes touching some of the tier 1s.
Okay. All right. So precision agriculture, that's a big thing in rural America, right? So and now we've got all this broadband out there in certain states. I mean, first of all, is that true? Do we have pretty big deployments in a lot of the areas where you guys are working?
There are a lot of fiber deployments and broadband deployments across the U.S. There are still a lot of gaps. We're trying to close that with BEAD and some other programs. But, states like North Dakota are largely fiber covered. They've done a great job of trying to get ahead of things.
Okay, so how are they using that infrastructure, like specifically with precision agriculture, or as I like to call it, smart farms?
Sure. So, for example, we're working with DCN in North Dakota, and they're connecting like North Dakota State University and all of the research extensions across the state with their fiber backbone.
Okay.
So that allows them to have the one experience across all of the campuses and have sensors and devices across all of the campuses connected centrally.
Okay, so tell me a little bit though, like what does it look like? What does precision agriculture look like? What kinds of like devices are out there, and how are the farmers actually experiencing the connectivity?
So I'd still say we're at our infancy in precision agriculture. The large farms have started a lot of deployments, but some of the mid-size and small farms have not. But there's tons of sensors that are out there, such as soil moisture, NPK sensors, soil tension, just thousands of different types of sensors out there. And what the precision agriculture is taking all of that and making sense of it. So for example, how much fertilizer do I need? When do I need it? Where do I need it? When do I need to irrigate? And where do I need to irrigate? Some of these plots of land are so large that it's not the same across the entire set of land.
Right. So like before broadband, before these sensors, like how were farmers, you think, doing that? They just kind of had to guess?
It's a learned trade.
Okay.
You just do the best you can, and sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't quite get it right. But that's one of the goals from the USDA is start getting much more precise data, reducing water usage, reducing the usage of fertilizers and pesticides. But all of that takes data, precision, all of the information that you gather.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, so the federal government, USDA, do they have some sort of plan out there that farmers have to live by, or how does that work?
They don't have anything formally yet, but there's a bill being passed through that has some precision agricultural ties into it. But largely, that plan is still evolving, and we're trying to push that out there. But they still have the goals and objectives out there by USDA published, and they've been out there for a while. So there's still a goal. It's just there needs to be money set aside to help some of these farmers. It's not easy to go deploy this, and not only is it take some money, but it also takes the know-how, the IT side of the house to go deploy it.
Right, which I would imagine that a lot of farmers, that's not their main job.
It can be a challenge. So one of the challenges that a lot of these farmers are facing is the younger generation that is more tech savvy is not necessarily interested in taking over the farm. So
Right.
there's a gap in, what do we do? You've got some farmers that have been there for a while, and it's not easy to adopt.
Hmm.
And then the younger generation not necessarily wanted to go jump in and take over. So how do you solve that? And I think that's where FBA and USDA can partner with a lot of the rural ILECs and operators out there to go provide some of these services to them.
And it sounds like, with these guidelines from the USDA and a bill working its way through Congress, that there's an interest in the federal government to make farming more efficient, to use fewer resources, and therefore, like, it's going to become, potentially a mandate. So they're going to have to figure out a way to get it done, right?
I don't think there's a way to achieve the goals without some kind of a push.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think it's going to be mandated. It's just a matter of when and how.
Right. Right. And certainly the network's there. It's just figuring out all the other pieces. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, there's so many pieces to the puzzle on this thing. So fiber is obviously the big enabler that bridges a lot of the gap. But then you're in the farm, and then there's what do you do? The so what, right?
Right.
So you still have to have the engine that processes the data. You still have to have the image recognition. You have to still have the AI data centers. You still have to have sensors in the field, radios in the field to collect things wirelessly. So you need a toolkit to go execute those.
Right. Right. And you mentioned data centers, which is kind of another interesting opportunity in rural America. It seems like that's where a lot of data centers maybe are going. So
They're popping up.
yeah, I was going to tell me about that. Like, why go to rural places, like kind of in the middle of nowhere? Why do they want to go there?
Like, you look at Texas, there's two states that are just absolutely on fire with data center. Of course, you've got Virginia and what have you, and then you have Texas. There's a lot of others popping up, but the panhandle of Texas is, I don't want to say middle of nowhere because I'm from Texas. I love Texas, but why there? But land is fairly cheap, but you can get the connectivity. If you can get the connectivity, if you can get power is number one. Then you can put it anywhere where land is cheap. They're not heavily manned.
Right. Right. Yeah. So it's not. They don't need a big workforce there to run it. Yeah. Yeah, but there are concerns, right? I mean, there are a lot of communities that are like, "Hey, not here," even when it is in the middle of nowhere. Is there some pushback in Texas where you guys are?
I think Texas has generally welcomed a lot of this. The economy there is just absolutely on fire in Texas. So I think we're pretty welcoming to a lot of these things. You just got to pick which areas to go to.
Right, right. And I mean, is sort of all the infrastructure there that's needed, or are there gaps?
There's still gaps.
Okay.
There's still gaps. You'll see a press release probably during this recording, but there are some pathways, middle mile, if you will, that there's just gaps in the amount of fiber strands that are required. These data centers are consuming tremendous amounts of data. You may have 100 terabit connection to this one, another 100 terabits to this one, etc. You're consuming a lot of the open strands, and finding pathways between two endpoints sometimes can be a little bit challenging. And
tell me a little bit about this middle mile challenge, because I feel like, maybe a decade ago when I was a reporter at CNET, I think I wrote a story about this. I mean, this seems to be a persistent problem. And also, just define for us, what do you mean by middle mile?
It's the area between two endpoints, if you will, between two big cities. You've got to have something connecting it. And oftentimes, like, for example, we did this one data center connected to another data center multiple states away. We had to connect from one carrier to another carrier to another carrier. Luckily, we found enough strands. If not, we would have to go construct some more fiber out there. So finding those highways in between these two major endpoints can be a challenge sometimes.
Right.
And we don't know where those highways are always going to be.
Okay.
I think that's part of our challenge. Just depends on where these hot spots are. So like the West Texas Panhandle, that there's a huge hotspot there now with all of the data centers.
But wasn't there some money like out there to bulk up the middle mile? I mean, I know that's not, is that part of the BEAD program, or
It is not.
that was previous money?
It was previous to it. It ran its course. Unfortunately, it was almost backwards. If we could see where we are now, and if we could rewind time and then do the middle mile to get where we are now and connect the data centers where they're popping up now, I think, it did obviously pave a lot of way, but it's still a challenge.
Right. Was it, do you think, because previously, probably a lot of these places, like you're saying, in rural areas, were not seen as being a good place for a data center at the time, but now it is. Yeah, they didn't know.
I don't think they knew. And these things are popping up really fast.
So is it just AI, you think, that's driving that, or is it other services that?
I'd say that's a large piece of this. The hyperscalers are out there and what have you. But data centers just in general are popping up, even non-AI. So
Right. Because I would imagine, I mean, like you're saying, like even farming is using data, and like it's not like the data is just stored on their phone. It has to go to the cloud. And where's the cloud? Well, that's a data center.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right. And you need that bandwidth to be able to upload everything there for the processing, like image recognition. So you've got a robot out in the field doing precision agriculture, identifying weeds, identifying different diseases or what have you. That image recognition goes somewhere for processing, and then the results go back.
Yeah. So as you're building out these networks, like what are some of the, I mean, are you guys seeing some challenges? I've heard that there may be some supply chain issues. You want to talk a little bit about that?
There's a lot of supply chain issues right now, but we're managing it. But we've got some great partners. But there's so much build going on right now by the hyperscalers that memory is significantly at a shortage. Getting allocations on different hardware is very tough to manage. Trying to meet deadlines. The data centers, the hyperscalers, our various other customers have certain deadlines that they have to meet, or there's penalties or what have you. But trying to find the allocation of equipment to go execute that is a global issue.
Right, because I mean, you've got the data centers that they want to like get as much of those components as possible, right? But then at the same time, you've got all these service providers trying to build out their networks as well, right?
That's right. And then consumers, like if you want to go buy a new computer right now, if you have a solid state hard drive, it's about 4 times what it was at Christmas.
Wow. Okay.
But
is it just the demand, or are there other factors? Like, for example, like the tariffs. Has that been an issue?
Tariffs have been an issue. It depends on how far back you go. But yes, I mean, some days you don't know what it's going to be. It kind of changes a little bit, and it changes the economics of some of the projects that you're working on.
Yeah. So what have you guys had to do? I mean, what goes into that? Yeah.
We have the tough conversations with the customers, and we always have a contract writer in there that, I can't control the tariffs. Tariffs are part of this. If they appear, then they'll be passed through.
Okay.
So, but...
and then what about the war in Iran has certainly made filling up your gas tank a lot more expensive. How has it affected, the telecom industry in terms of getting supplies and so forth?
We personally have not had an issue with that yet, but some fairly large projects are kicking off, and I'm sure our crew rates are going to go up. Maybe some availability of different things are going to be challenged when we get to some of those other projects. But we're watching it very closely and figuring out where are our risks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just makes me think of this is going to sound sort of silly in scale, but right after COVID, I redid my kitchen.
Yeah.
And literally, all the prices for the supplies were just going through the roof.
They are.
Yeah. And, we'd just get bill after bill, like, oh no, this is more expensive. And you're like, what? So it's got to be really challenging for these companies.
So that's the other thing is we're watching pricing because we're having to redo some of the contract pricing. But again, we have language in there for price adjustments because you just don't know what's going to happen from time to time. So we give a quote to a customer, and then some unknown event happens or some drastic price changes. We try to absorb what we can, but there's times when we just can't.
Right. So how do you think that might affect, getting to the places where that maybe are not connected yet, the places that BEAD is trying to get to?
I think ultimately it's going to start challenging some of those business cases that were made when BEAD was created.
Okay.
So if you started looking at RDOF and some of the previous programs, there was a bit of fallout because the business cases, by the time they executed, it didn't work.
Right.
So they had to work through some of the penalties and clawbacks and what have you. I'm curious to see if that happens on BEAD because some of the economics are changing. Some of the timelines are going to change. Look at the lead times for some of the fiber and components and what have you. It's out there. And so, when you sign your contract with BEAD, you have a timeline that you committed to, you have funding that you've committed to. So we'll see if that changes. And
do you think that there will be some consolidation?
There's always going to be consolidation. Now, the timing of the consolidation is going to be tricky. There were some folks, obviously, with RDOF that tried to get the awards and then sell the award.
Okay.
That's pretty frowned upon.
Okay.
So I think they're going to have to start executing, and then there will be some consolidation, maybe during execution or maybe post-execution. But
right.
I absolutely, you'll see some modernized networks get sold.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it seems like a tricky time to be in the business.
It's a lot of navigating.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So to kind of wrap things up here, I want to ask you a final question.
Sure.
As you look ahead over the next 5 to 10 years, what changes do you think we'll see in rural areas as things like precision agriculture mature and these mega data centers dot the rural landscape? Like, what do you think? What do you think's next after that?
I don't know what's next, but I think you're going to see a much more efficient adoption of all of the technologies that'll be much more cohesive. And I think you'll see a deployment that's fairly ubiquitous across multiple technologies. So you will see, like the precision agriculture, you'll see a much more of an ease in deployment because a lot of the steps will be automated by some of the AI and what have you. We're already starting to see the integrations become easier with AI.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting stuff.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So what do you want everybody to sort of take away from our conversation here today? Is there any one main idea that you want to impart on all of our great listeners?
Well, I just want to say thank you to FBA for being the glue that kind of pulls all of this together and enabling some of these conversations and you taking your time to do this.
Oh, great.
A big thank you to all of you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining us. It was a great conversation. And that's it for right now on this episode of FCTV.